The great thing about the history panel is that you can step back in time and either correct or remove any of the edits that you just did. So the history panel is located under Window, History, and you can see that the box is already checked right here because I already have the history panel open. But you will see that right now all that is displayed is a snapshot of how the image is as I just opened it. So now I'm going to modify this image a little so you could see how it works. And I got the paintbrush and I'm just going to paint some bats. Yes, you heard me, bats. I'm making some really scary bats on this picture. And as I'm painting, take a look at the right onto the history panel and see that each time I click and I hold down the brush, drag and let go, it's making another layer. The thing about the history panel is that what looks like layers are actually called states. So each one of these ones that say brush tool are actually states. And it makes sense. What it's doing is it's recording the image in that particular state. So each one is recording one of these brush strokes. So now I have a whole bunch of really scary bats flying around. And now I'm going to go up into the history panel and just step backwards one by one. And you can see that each one disappears as I step back in the states. I wish it were this easy to get rid of bats. So there I am back to the original. You'll notice that the whole panel here and all the states are grayed out. If I were to just start drawing another bat right away, what would happen is it would delete all the grayed out states. But as long as I don't make another edit, then what I can do is, let's say I thought, hey, you know what, I kind of liked it with those scary bats. So I can click back all the grayed out states. I can also, let me go all the way down here. Let's say I don't like this front bat. It's a little too close to the foreground. I could take that or any other state and throw it right down here into the little trash can located in the panel. Another thing that actually I find very useful is that in the history panel, there's this icon that looks like a little camera, and that's for making a new snapshot. So the image opens with the original snapshot always by default. And if I click now on the little camera, I now get a second snapshot. And I can also name that. Oops, didn't mean to do that. It's being stubborn. There I go. Okay, and I'm going to call it bats. So now I can toggle between the original when I opened it and then all my edits with the scary bats. And then normal, scary, normal, scary. And this is particularly good if you're doing any complicated multi-step color balance or even any kind of contrast adjustments, sharpening. If it involves many steps, this is an easy way then to toggle from before adjustments and then after adjustments. In this case, we just have bats. Okay, so now let me give you a little background on this history panel because this is important. A lot of people get confused that this operates like the layers palette because it does seem to have these things that look like layers, and when you record that snapshot, looks like you're getting some kind of layer. Beware that the history panel operates in a way different way. It is completely reliant on your working session. So nothing is saved when you close the image. Once you save the image and shut it, it is gone. So even this snapshot that I have here, if I close the image, come back, what will happen is I'll open up history and it'll only have one original snapshot from my last saved image before I closed it. So be very careful. A lot of people think, oh, I'll come back and I'll decide if I want to get rid of some of these bats. That's not going to happen, because if I saved right now and closed it, these bats are pretty much there unless I did it on a separate layer. So if you want that kind of non-destructive editing, you still have to use layers to do that. The history is just a convenient way to step back or do multiple undos. Now, a lot of people think you can't do undos in Photoshop, that you can only just do a Command Z and get rid of one thing. But you can do multiple undos in Photoshop by, on a Mac, holding down Command, Option, and Z. Not just Command Z, but Command and Option and Z. And you can see I'm doing that right now, and I'm stepping back, stepping back, stepping back. So Command, Option, Z, or Command, Alt, Z on the PC. And this will step you back as many states as you have set in your preferences. So let me show you how that works. If you go up here in Photoshop, you go to the preferences and go to the one that says performance. Within the performance dialog box, you'll see right here there's a setting for the history states, and by default it gives you 20 states before it starts recycling. So it'll save up to 20 states and then it'll start bumping the top one out. In this case I use something like 7 states over here, so I have plenty. There is the option to crank this up all the way to 1,000 states recorded. To me, this is insane. Forget about doing this. Like, if you are that asleep at the wheel that after 1,000 moves you just realized you made a mistake, I feel like you should go take a nap or something, because that's way too many. At that point, after making 1,000 different adjustments, I would actually just save a copy or start working on a new layer. To keep 1,000 states, first of all, it takes up too much RAM, and it just seems kind of ridiculous and unwieldy. So 20 seems good to me. It's just that you have to really watch it, because with drawing the bats, that's kind of controlled, and you kind of knew how many brush strokes you're making. If you were doing something over here like cloning or using the spot healing, and you were doing some retouch, you might make a ton of tiny little clicks just to, you know, sort of repair an image. And so you could get to those 20 states really quickly. So maybe you might turn up your history states a little bit when you're doing retouch, but I usually just keep an eye on it. And then after about 20 clicks, I look at my image and decide, do I want to take a snapshot? Do I want to make a new layer? And so those are the kind of decisions where you just have to be careful about what you're doing. So that is the luxury and usefulness of the history panel. The history panel, 'tis upon us. Thou art traveling back in history.